Just describe Colby in like 2 sentences or less.
Cult leader I would like to follow, and veritable father figure.
Gets up there, and I think he's giving a speech that Hitler would give.
Colby is a psychopath.
He saved our relationship.
He's like if Jackie Chan and Stan Lee had a kid.
Colby is a creative genius. He's always coming up with new crazy ideas to make sure the Rocketry Club is different than the other clubs, to make sure we're always trying different things. And it makes it really fun and interesting.
He's a great person. Rocketry Club is the best thing that's ever been made.
He's unique.
He's an all-around good guy.
I love the Rocket Club, and I love Colby. He's a smart guy, and he brought a good group of kids around, to make a really cool club.
This is the story of the club that devoured 2 sponsors. This is the reason why we have rules for on-campus organizations. This is the Rocketry Club. Colby found himself in the 12th grade. Compelled by forces within him, he founded the Rocketry Club by managing to convince Colonel Drake to sponsor the club. But what is a club without members? Sensing the birth of the vacuous organization, Panthers from across campus flocked to fill the newborn club, 90% of which are in the Corps. Not much time had passed since the club was formed. Homecoming was already in full swing at the Albert B. Alkek campus. In the slightly humid classroom of Colonel Drake, the club prepared for its obligatory homecoming booth, shooting ideas across the room like rounds at the rifle range, impacting the chalkboards, leaving ugly drawings of terrible ways to make money. In the discussion, the product settled on was bottle rockets and rocket candy. However, the weather was not on their side.
And I said, Mr. Root, look, I realize that we probably can't be shooting off bottle rockets and lighting small explosives in the gym. And he said, yes, most certainly no. And I said, so look, we had another idea. I know it was a really stupid one. We were going to make some sort of a Colby room. Would I need to submit another form for that? And he said to me, and I quote, I don't care, do whatever you're going to do, as long as you don't set anything on fire.
In the end, the club had amassed $358, attracting the ire of the debilitated competition. This money would prove instrumental in the club's machinations. This momentum was sustained for months, as the club would fly rockets both weekly and bi-weekly in some cases, although the strain of the constant operations was showing on the school. This was a golden age for the club, culminating in the flight of the Cardinal, a scarlet missile floating to the heavens like a pyroclastic flow gone astray. The excellence the club had promised months ago was being fulfilled in the present. The final rocket to be launched, the Cardinal, fitted with a GoPro, was the epitome of everything the club had created. The school came together to watch the GoPro rocket fly hundreds of feet above campus. It was a marvel of ingenuity, but it needed to be topped. The growing spectacle of the launches culminated in an event known as Fuel Burn 1, or the debacle thereof. For weeks, high-ranking club members toiled in the shade of Chavano, cooking, mixing, pouring, casting rocket fuel for a test unlike any seen before on campus. In the interest of safety, they also devised a containment device for the slow-burning warhead, weighing in at around 200 pounds and made of concrete and steel, truly an eyesore that weighed heavy on the eyes of facilities for weeks, as it languished in rust in the space between the grove of the trees behind the chapel and the track. The event itself was a disaster. Even the film guys were there to document the club's biggest disaster to date. After the failure of all 3 igniters, it was time to switch to propane torch ignition. At this point, Colonel Drake stepped in, sensing the danger before the club. Unfortunately, he was unable to realize that the danger he sensed was in fact for himself. Holding the propane torch upside down, flames spewed forth from both sides. Colonel Drake set the torch down safely in the grass and aborted the fuel burn. He called the club fire marshal over to put the torch out, only to discover that the TMI fire extinguisher was spent. Luckily, some club members retrieved sand from the track and put the gas fire out. Despite the successful handling of the incident, even with the faulty equipment, the Rocketry Club was in the crosshairs of administration. Thankfully, for the greater TMI community, our hero, Colonel Drake, took the bullet for the club and resigned, sacrificing himself so that the club's ambition might live. For a club to exist, it must have a sponsor. With the ego death of Colonel Drake, the Rocketry Club had lost its legitimacy. The Rocketry Club had gone underground. Plans were formulated, and a primary objective was realized, acquiring a new club sponsor. Mr. Serato came into the picture. He brought with him new safety protocols and a more robust dialogue with security and administration. Thanks to Mr. Serato's connections with security, Fuel Burn 2 was able to happen. The event was unlike any other in TMI history. A crowd gathered to see the club at its zenith. Much like a symphony, the event built up with smaller launches, even that of a new rocket plane, before reaching crescendo in the form of 10 pounds of rocket fuel being ignited. Apollyon opened his maw and belched forth a tremendous haze of brimstone that darkened the sky. The sound of his throat rattling against the dry air screamed like a jet, stunning the crowd before he recoiled upright, becoming like a volcano and roaring against God. The crowd was speechless. For what words are left to speak after witnessing apotheosis? The Rocketry Club had become immortal.